Good morning, Lidar CANEX. Hope everyone's enjoying the event so far. I'm Sven Cowan, and I'm the Canada Program Manager at NV5. Please forgive the punny title of my presentation, but it'll make more sense in a minute. Hopefully, we got your attention at least, and thanks for your attendance. Today, I'll be talking about some of our NV5 sensor platform innovations and how they might be able to support some of your projects and applications. Here's the agenda that I plan to cover today. I'll start with a quick overview of NV5 and what we do. There's been a lot of change over the past year at NV5, and we've grown quite a bit. Next, we'll get into our class system, which is our topographic LiDAR and imagery solution that we can use for corridors and pipelines. Then we'll learn about BLAST, which is our topobathymetric LiDAR solution that we are using for some of our more complex bathymetric LiDAR survey projects. Finally, we'll do a wrap-up of the presentation, and we'll end with a live Q&A. NV5 is the nexus of engineering and technology. We use innovation to deliver precise and reliable solutions to global challenges. We're just over 4,000 people working in over 100 offices worldwide, and I'm based in our Vancouver, BC location. NV5 focuses primarily in three main business areas. First, we have infrastructure, where we have a broad suite of civil engineering design, surveying, and inspection services for critical infrastructure such as transportation and water resources. Next, there's buildings and technology, where we optimize building performance with advanced technology solutions, from designing resilient data centers to enhancing efficiency and clean energy adoption from design to commissioning. And finally, geospatial. We're the most comprehensive provider of geospatial software and services, from data acquisition to analytics to answers to solve mission-critical challenges. Focusing on our geospatial group, we're just over 1,300 people, mostly based in North America. We've completed projects all around the world, and we have over 500,000 users of our different software tools. There's no magic to our success or how we do it. We sum it up in three simple words: acquire, analyze, and answer. Beginning with acquire, at NV5, we say that everything starts with good data, and we've invested heavily in these capabilities. We're a safety-first team with international certifications. Our acquisition platforms include a fleet of fixed-wing aircraft, UAVs, vehicles, and waterborne vessels. We also have a network of helicopter providers and work with many different satellite data platforms. Our sensor capabilities include just about any type of remote sensing technology you can think of. We perform surveys using nearly all types of LiDAR, all spectrums of imagery, and hydrographic sonar technology. In analysis, we use powerful processing and analysis capabilities to help empower customer decision-making. Behind the scenes of our software solutions and services, you'll find technologies like deep learning, workflow automation, and real-time data integration. Our analysis capabilities include dynamic software, enterprise GIS, workflow enhancement, analytical reporting, and staff augmentation. But data and analysis are only as powerful as the answers that they produce. Our practical solutions extract meaningful information from your data to improve decision-making. We provide tailored, enterprise-level geospatial services and solutions to solve business problems. This includes business system solutions and integration, facility and system security, and of course, digital twins and surveying and mapping applications. We also own, license, and design an array of geospatial software tools, including the NV ecosystem, which is a suite of products that enable everyone to fully benefit from the value of remotely sensed data in many different ways. There's also our Insight data management platform that provides on-demand access to cloud-hosted GIS information, mapping data, 3D models, and analytics dashboards. There's a Datum Summit Evolution for discovering and capturing 3D information from stereo data, and also the Helios Weather Analytics tool for fast and accurate local ground weather intelligence, as well as other security tools and the customizable IDL scientific programming language for complex data visualizations. But we don't work in a vacuum, and you wouldn't want to work with a company that does. While we have expertise in every aspect of the geospatial industry, we also rely on a strong partner network from software to hardware. We're a Platinum Esri partner, a Trimble Platinum Services partner, and we partner with Safe Software and AWS to power our AI and machine learning tools and platforms. We also work closely with Regal and Leica to stay on the leading edge of LiDAR sensor technology innovations. We partner with iTrez, FLIR, and EdgeTech to develop our thermal, hyperspectral, and hydrographic sensing capabilities. Okay, so now that you know a little bit more about NV5, let's get into the presentation. We'll start with class and stay classy. This is an image of the Regal 1560 IIS topographic LiDAR sensor. This is our workhorse for uniform, wide area, topographic LiDAR data acquisition. I've also included a map of one of our projects where we would typically use a system like this. Nice big areas with minimal terrain. Now granted, these AOIs are a bit complex on the Newfoundland coastline, but the size of them means that we can be very efficient when we use a system like the Regal 1560 to acquire LiDAR over these areas. But what if the project areas are not wide, uniform areas? What if we're looking to acquire LiDAR over a large transmission line corridor? We're seeing an increase in requirements for higher point densities to support engineering work for electric utilities. Sometimes we can meet these requirements with a fixed-wing approach, but sometimes we need to be able to fly lower and slower to meet these advanced specifications. What if we're looking to acquire a complex pipeline corridor? There are more pipelines being built across the continent, and we're seeing an increase in requirements to monitor this infrastructure and to be able to detect small shifts and displacements. Depending on the data requirements and topography, these applications may not be a good fit for a traditional sensor approach. And what if we're working in a steep area of terrain like we have out here in BC? And what if we want to make the most of the data acquisition phase, which is typically the most expensive part of a survey project? What if we want to acquire other data sources like orthoimagery, oblique imagery, and video at the same time that we acquire LiDAR? This is why NV5 has developed the CLASS solution. CLASS stands for Comprehensive Low Altitude Sensor Solution. It's a multi-sensor, single-pass solution designed for corridor and high-terrain projects. So why use CLASS? This system wouldn't make much sense for a big, wide-area project, but for corridor and multi-source data projects, this system is a great option. CLASS provides the simultaneous acquisition of high-density LiDAR and high-resolution imagery. CLASS can confidently acquire engineering-level datasets needed to support complex system design and hazard detection of applications. CLASS is also a single-pass system, so one flight provides multiple layers of useful mapping data. Here's a look at the typical CLASS configuration. NV5 doesn't build any of these sensors or cameras, but we integrate them together depending on the project requirements. In this typical configuration, we have two overlapping Regal VUX 240 systems for greater LiDAR data penetration and density. Also have a phase 1 4-band ortho camera, 250 megapixel oblique cameras, and a 1080p HD video camera. There's also an incorporated weather probe for meteorological data collection during flight. CLASS is designed for rotary wing application. All sensors are integrated in a meeker mount that attaches to the bottom of a helicopter. CLASS is FAA and Transport Canada approved for the Bell 206 series, includes the 206B, 206L, and 407. This is one of the most common rotary wing platforms in the world and can be found in almost every region through our extensive network of helicopter providers. This means that it's easy to source a platform for the CLASS system and efficiently install the system with local aircraft and pilots. Here's a look at the basic CLASS performance specs. With the configuration I showed earlier, at 500 feet, we're seeing LiDAR density of over 100 points per square meter and orthoimagery at approximately 1.5 centimeters. At 1,000 feet, we're seeing LiDAR density over 60 points per square meter and orthoimagery at approximately 3 centimeters resolution. And at 1,500 feet, we're seeing LiDAR density of over 40 points per square meter and orthoimagery at approximately 4 centimeters resolution. And just for reference, when we use the CLASS system for transmission line work, we typically fly between 500 and 1,000 feet AGL. CLASS can be used very effectively for corridor and multi-source projects, or any project area affected by steep terrain or complex building and airspace environments. CLASS works well for large corridor projects such as transmission line surveys and pipeline inspections, especially for multi-source projects, where we can acquire multiple datasets on a single pass and make the most of each acquisition phase opportunity. Each year, we're flying our class systems on thousands of linear kilometers of project corridors for these types of applications. So let's take a quick look at some of the data from the class system. Here's a perspective view of high-density LiDAR point cloud for a railway project. Note the clear wire capture, not only of primary circuits, but also lower voltage lines and guy wires. Here's a nadir false color orthoimagery view from a transportation survey. You can easily identify all forms of surface vegetation and identify individual rooftop chimneys, cooling units, and vehicles. And finally, here's a zoom into a true color orthoimagery from the class system. Utility poles, roadway curbs, and manhole covers are all easily identifiable. So now you've learned a little bit about class. Let's switch gears and take some look at water applications. Let's have a blast. This is an image of the Leica Chiroptera 5 topobathymetric LiDAR sensor from Hexagon. This is one of the main systems that NV5 uses for aerial bathymetric surveys of shorelines, lakes, and rivers. It's a highly effective system for topobathymetric LiDAR data capture, and we have used this system all across Canada, including for the large project area highlighted on this slide. This is the Okanagan Lake region here in BC. It's a large lake chain in a beautiful, shallow valley. We map the nearshore bathymetry of these lakes using the Chiroptera system with great coverage and depth penetration. But what if the area to be surveyed is located in a canyon or a steep valley? Bathymetric LiDAR surveys already require lower flying altitudes because the sensor needs to be closer to the water so that we can be sure to penetrate the water surface with the laser. Bathymetric LiDAR surveys also require more planning than topographic LiDAR surveys and are usually flown at low flow, leaf-off conditions, which are typically in the early spring or late fall when the weather is marginal. This means that we usually see more cloud cover during these times of year, and we have to find a way to work around this, which usually means flying under the cloud deck. So if you have to fly below the clouds to get good data, then we need a good option for these types of surveys when a fixed wing flight could be dangerous. And so NV5 has developed the BLAST system, which stands for Bathymetric LiDAR and Airborne Sensing Technology. Here's a pretty picture of BLAST about to take flight from a mountaintop and fly into one of the valleys below to perform a bathymetric survey. Yes, we do love acronyms. So similar to CLASS, BLAST is a multi-sensor platform primarily designed for complex topobathymetric LiDAR acquisition. Especially in the West, we're seeing an increased need to survey upriver in higher elevations and more complex environments. The BLAST platform enables these types of surveys and reduces the associated risk by including multiple sensors for a single pass acquisition. So here's a look at the typical BLAST configuration. The primary sensor is the bathymetric sensor, which is typically a Regal 840G system. We're also anticipating the release of the Regal 860G for similar applications. We've also integrated a Regal VUX topographic sensor to supplement the bathymetric sensor and to be used for water surface definition and refraction. We also have a nadir focus imagery camera, which is a phase 1 4-band system, and when needed, we can also integrate a thermal camera depending on the application. Unlike CLASS, BLAST uses a nose mount, which is highly versatile for different helicopter types. Here's examples of the BLAST system mounted in Airbus A-Star and a Bell 206. The system is shock mounted to dampen vibrations. Installation is typically simple and takes 1 or 2 days. Here's a look at BLAST performance specs assuming an acquisition at 500 feet AGL. In this configuration, bathymetric LiDAR would be acquired at over 14 points per square meter. Topographic LiDAR would be acquired at over 30 points per square meter. Orthoimagery at about 3 centimeters resolution, and thermal imagery at about 15 centimeters resolution. Of course, the data specs would be affected by the flying altitude accordingly. The BLAST platform can be useful for any project with a complex topobathymetric requirement, especially within steep terrain or complex urban or airspace restricted environments. Enabling multi-source data capture is highly useful for value-added applications. Adding co-acquired imagery enables additional inspection capability and can be used to colorize the LiDAR point cloud. Adding thermal data allows for the identification of hot and cold spots for seepage or damage assessment. This dataset is also increasingly useful for habitat management analysis. Here's a look at the cross-section of a topobathymetric point cloud from the BLAST platform. The orange points are from a traditional fixed-wing system, and the blue points are from BLAST. We flew this project area using both systems and integrated the LiDAR point clouds. You can clearly see the improved point density and depth penetration from the BLAST system, enabling a denser and deeper bathymetric profile. So just for a quick recap, NV5 is a highly capable engineering and technology company. We have full-service geospatial solutions and software tools. We have many years of experience across Canada, and we're always looking for innovative ways to tackle geospatial challenges. CLASS is a single-pass solution for topographic LiDAR and imagery data acquisition designed for corridor projects. And BLAST is a multi-source data solution designed for topobathymetric LiDAR data acquisition in complex topography or airspace environments. This concludes my presentation. Thanks a lot for your time and attention. Please feel free to contact me if you'd like to learn anything more about our NV5 geospatial services, including CLASS and BLAST. Also, big thanks to the GeoGeomatics Canada team for their great work with Lidar CANEX and their support for the Canadian geospatial industry overall. We've been longtime supporters of the great work they're doing, and we look forward to more events later this year. NV5 will also be proud sponsors of the GeoIgnite event coming up in Ottawa in May, and we hope to see you all there. Enjoy the rest of Lidar CANEX and have a great year in 2025.
Sven, as usual, fantastic talk. Very exciting developments going on at NV5, I must say. Very impressive.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, no, that's great. We have one question so far in the Q&A. Where is the GNSS antenna located on the helicopter?
Okay, yeah, good question. Depends on the type of helicopter we're using. I guess a lot of configurations I've seen from the installations we've done, it's on the tail, but I know that there are other types of helicopters and antenna configurations as well.
Yeah, I remember back in we did some work with Terra Remote Sensing, and they had a helicopter mounted topo lidar. So and they had their GNSS on the tail, and I asked, was there much interference or blockage from the rotors and so forth? And surprisingly, the answer was no. So yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah, we've experienced the same thing.
Yeah. Another question's popped up here, Sven. What is the accuracy of your point cloud data?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the application. We can meet most of the specifications that we've seen, just listening to the conversation earlier with NRCan, we see requirements for, of course, 5 centimeters on some of the more urban engineering level applications, and that's certainly possible. That, of course, does include ground survey work to supplement what we're doing in the air, but we can easily meet those specifications and others depending on the project requirements.
Yeah, very good. Another one here. How big is the NV5 team in Canada? Is everyone based out of BC?
Yeah, well, we're growing. We're not all based in BC. There's only a couple of us out here, but we now have folks in Ontario and New Brunswick, doing all different types of roles, including project management, proposal writing groups, customer-facing roles. And then, of course, during the acquisition season in the summertime, we've got a lot of field folks across Canada as well. So yeah, it's certainly a growing in our presence in Canada for sure.
Yeah, no, very, very impressive, everything that NV5 has expertise in. Sven, I noticed it was the Regal bathymetric lidar in there. Is there a plan, or have you looked at trying to put your Chiroptera 5 on the helicopter platform?
I don't think we've actually looked at that much. We would typically, it depends on the project, right? What we're trying to accomplish and what the scale of the project is. but I think we've been more comfortable keeping the Chiroptera level type sensors in a fixed wing aircraft, and then going with a smaller form factor like the 840G or 860G in the helicopters. I mean, we could also put that 840 sensor on a UAV, but then of course it comes down to the scale of the project as well. You can have longer flights with a helicopter, and so depending on the project, we have typically gone with a helicopter approach, and that's why that BLAST platform kind of has come to existence. We've just saw more projects that didn't make a ton of sense to be flying with fixed wing aircraft, and they were a little too big to fly, or too remote to fly with the UAV. And so we looked at the helicopter solution, and that's been working pretty well for us. We've had it up for a couple of systems now. It's quite configurable, works on a lot of different types of helicopters and different aircraft. So that's probably on the helicopter side of things where we'll continue to focus, I think.
Great. And just a quick reminder to our audience, and I see some of you have caught on to this, please don't use the webinar chat. Put your questions into the Q&A box, please. We have another one here. Do you accept intern students? They are from University of Calgary, U of C, so I assume University of Calgary.
Yeah, we do have an internship program. The details of it are on the NV5 website. So I think that's a good place to look for that. But certainly there are opportunities for employment as well. But all of that is on the NV5 website, and it does require application through the website. But if there were questions specifically about any of that, I'm happy to speak to whoever has questions about those types of issues as well.
Very good, very good. Another one here. Do you have a LiDAR sensor that can gather bathymetric data? And then further to clarify, actually an underwater bathymetric LiDAR sensor. Do you have anything like that?
Underwater bathymetric LiDAR sensor. I guess we would probably look at sonar or one of those capabilities for that type of an application. Most of the bathymetry work we do that is airborne.
Yeah.
And that's often due to some of the risks involved with nearshore bathymetry capture from a vessel. There's safety issues depending on the type of area you're trying to survey. And then we would use like a sonar approach for some of the not nearshore areas, and that would be vessel based. So yeah, maybe I'm not understanding the question correctly, but
no, I think you are.
Yeah.
I think you are. And I mean, I would say the idea of LiDARs underwater, still quite in the R&D phase. I've seen some fairly close range systems for measuring different things and so forth. So not perhaps to the commercial scale. Another question here: who came up with the name BLAST and Classy? Was it a group effort?
Yeah, like I said in the presentation, the team loves acronyms. They're always having fun with that. And yeah, it's typically our flight operations team that comes up with it. Just trying to find something a little bit catchy that is somewhat memorable. But yeah, they try to have fun with that type of thing.
Yeah, I chuckled at your title, and now I see it. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, apologies. I know it's a
Oh,
little
no.
punny, but gotta have
Oh,
some
hey,
fun
I
where you
love it.
can.
I love it.
Okay.
Here's a great question. Does salt water affect the Bathy LiDAR?
Yeah, we don't see as much of an effect from saltwater with the LiDAR as we do with sonar, for instance. The concerns mainly with the Bathy LiDAR are related to turbidity and bottom reflectivity. But Tim, I know just from your intro presentation that you've got a great background in bathymetric LiDAR. I'd be curious to know your thoughts just based on some of the survey work you've done and if it's been as big of an impact for you.
Yeah, no, I concur with you. It's the salinity and the temperature do not affect the speed of light nearly as much as they do sound. So, I think Bathy LiDAR is an ideal tool for surveying, say, estuarine environments where you've got a mix of salt and fresh water. So I won't say no effect, but marginal. Marginal.
Mhm.
We have a follow-up here just commenting on how sonar potentially can be detrimental to animals, and there's been numerous studies using LiDAR for further underwater investigation. So I guess that's something, Sven, for both of us to look into and educate ourselves a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that is another benefit for LiDAR, right? It's an airborne system. I can't say it has no impact on the environment at all, but we're not in the water churning, up the sediment or whatever, the benthic habitat might be. And so I think there's a lot more applications that bathymetric LiDAR can support. And I think it's a good approach, certainly if environmental sensitivity is a concern.
Yeah. A couple of quick ones. Approximately how much of your survey work do you do with the helicopters?
Yeah, I realize I just gave a presentation on a lot of our helicopter innovations, but I think relative to what we do with fixed wing, it's still probably, 20% or something like that. Most of the work we're doing is with fixed wing aircraft, just I think based on a lot of the scale of the projects that we're working on. And I mean, you highlighted it, I think, in your intro talk, like the advancements in sensor technology are increasing significantly. The Regal Leica, Optech, all of their new sensor technology is more efficient and more powerful than ever before, so we can fly higher and faster. And so, it's an interesting time to be in the LiDAR space
Hmm.
because it's all kind of changing and it gives more opportunity and options for different platforms, different sensor combinations. And I think if I was a LiDAR customer right now, you're getting more, I think, for every dollar you spend than ever before in terms of point density and resolution and accuracy. So no, I mean, I think overall, still most of the work we do is fixed wing, but there are certain situations, like I kind of presented in my presentation, where you need a helicopter just due to certain airspace restrictions or safety
Right,
requirements, and a helicopter makes more sense.
right. We have another question. What's the maximum depth at which bathymetric LiDAR can accurately return points in clear water? I
Yeah.
know you folks have surveyed some pretty sweet areas in the Caribbean, so
Yeah, and I mean, so you get that question a lot, and it is important to stipulate that this does certainly depend on water quality and bottom reflectivity. And so we just did a big project in Florida, and we were using some of the latest sensor technology from Leica, which was the Chiroptera 5, Hawkeye 5, and we were getting returns down to 70 meters. So, that's a deep, deep survey. But like I said at the beginning, that does depend on the water quality and bottom reflectivity conditions. But accurately getting that depth of survey is certainly significant. I
yeah.
think it like that I talked about that Okanagan Lakes project,
Hmm.
which it's not Florida, but certainly I think more of a typical type of deeper water survey that you might see in an inland area, and we were getting returns there between 20 and 30 meters using the Chiroptera system and Hawkeye combination. But that's probably, I think, more typical in a like a deeper type of Canadian water area that you might want to survey.
I guess just to follow up on that, you've mentioned the Hawkeye, and for our audience, it's a deep water channel that can be a whole other laser system that can be coupled with the Chiroptera 5. What would you say the ratio of your bathymetric surveys ask for the deep water channel, Sven?
Yeah, it's certainly more coastal.
Yep.
There is more interest for, the Hawkeye deeper channel system to be included. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think, and to kind of go back to what NRCan just talked about, there's, a lot of focus on the rivers and flood mapping, and it doesn't always make sense in a river environment to include the Hawkeye.
Mhm.
So I think inland, I would say it's not that many. Maybe 20% of the surveys would include a deep channel, but once you go coastal, it's probably 70% or something like that. Just roughly speaking, I guess.
Right. A couple of more quick ones for me. Where is the head office of NV5, the geospatial focus?
Yeah. Well, so the NV5 Global is based in Florida.
Okay.
But the geospatial team is much more dispersed. We're kind of, all over the place, really. Like I
Yeah.
mentioned, in Canada, we've got folks in BC, Ontario, New Brunswick, and it's sort of dispersed that way across the US as well. So it's much less centralized than the kind of parent company is.
Okay.
And so we're all over the place. I mean, maybe that question came from and is interested in where our fleet of aircraft might be located, but that they are also quite mobile,
Hmm.
and we're trying to keep the planes in the air as much as possible. And of course, following the seasonal weather conditions. So we've got in the summertime aircraft all the way up in the Arctic slope, and in the wintertime all the way down in Florida and the Caribbean. So we're really coast to coast to coast to coast type of operation. So yeah, we don't physically have to have an office location near a project area to be able to execute, I guess, is the fundamental bottom line.
Right. And I guess just seeing the advancements of this presentation, can you give us a sneak peek on what's next for NV5?
Yeah. Well, so, in the last year, NV5 acquired the NV software group and, all the different software tools that includes. So that's been a lot of focus over the last year is, learning as much as possible from our colleagues there and how we might be able to work together more. So I think that'll certainly be a focus moving forward in terms of, software users need data and data users need software. So it's a good combination there. And I think also I'd say, there's always going to be an interest in future sensor advancements. So that's an area where we continue to focus and learn and invest. And then I think there's going to be a lot of attention paid to, machine learning and auto classification, some of the stuff that you were discussing with the NRCan team. I know Zeos is giving a presentation on this here shortly as well. But there's a lot of focus in those areas as well that the NV5 is spending time on as well.
I bet. No, you got some real sharp people in your group there.
Thanks,
Well,
Tim.
Sven, as usual, great job. Thank you. I know I'll be seeing you in a week or two at Geo Week, where NV5 always has a big presence, and look forward to chatting with you in person. And anybody in the audience, if you've never gone to that event, Geo Week, it's a great event for Lidar nerds like Sven and I.